Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning to talk about the REAP program with the USDA. We try to do this about every week where we try to put some information out that we hope will be helpful to other people that are trying to look into some of these projects that are really good projects to go after. There's a lot of projects that people have always looked at: irrigation, grain drying, bread and butter stuff like that. But one of the exciting things for us is to get into some of the niche markets that we really think we can be a big assistance and help on with the REAP TAG program. So this is going to be a meeting this morning talking a little bit about the type of technical assistance that can occur when somebody is trying something new and different, and maybe not the 90% solution that the USDA sees so often, but a unique idea that we thought when we started working with the folks at Salad Days was a really good idea. And we tried to put a lot of support to making sure that their idea could come to fruit. I guess you can say that in greenhouses, you really can come to fruit. With that, I'd like to introduce you. My name's Bruce Everly. I'm here at EIM and have been here for about 20 years doing grants, engineering, and auditing for the USDA programs, a variety of them. I'm a certified energy manager. I work with NRCS. I work with rural development, Department of Energy. We've had a pretty good background in many of these things. But really, I'm not the story here today. The story is the folks out there that have done, I think, a very innovative project on trying to do lettuce and other greenhouse vegetables indoors, which, as you probably understand, is a pretty energy intensive sort of process. We have today with us Lee and Jamie from Salad Days, and they have got a great story about what they're trying to accomplish and about how they went about doing it. And frankly, we're hoping we can talk a little bit about some of the issues they ran into and some of the solutions that they found and the people and resources that were useful to them. With that said, Lee, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your project down there? I love this story, so I just want to listen real hard.
Well, thank you for inviting us. I'm Lee Bailey, and my husband Jamie Redmond is here with me. And we began Salad Days about almost 12 years ago now, and we are indoor growers, controlled environment ag growers of produce. We started out with tomatoes and lettuce. We have gravitated over the years to just strictly lettuce for many reasons, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So we are fully full lettuce production currently in about 18,000 square feet of greenhouse. It is, as Bruce mentioned, it's pretty energy demanding for all of our fans and ventilation. I mean, we are not HVAC controlled. We do use a evaporative cooling system and a fan system, fan and pads, basically. But it's in the climate in Mississippi where we live, it's a pretty big demand on that. So we have built the business up over the last number of years, and we are completely supply constrained, which led us to the idea of an expansion. So we have we're in the fundraising portion of the planning for this expanded business, which will be about 65,000 square feet. And we came across the REAP grant program. And of course, a 65,000 square foot facility is not an inexpensive thing, and we're looking at about a $10.5 million spend on this entire project. So anything that we could find in grant funding was really important to making this a success. And we really enjoyed working with EIM and the help they were able to give us, the guidance. It's a little bit of a process to get through, but it's certainly doable with some help and some guidance that we got from them. And we're very pleased to have been successful in the award.
We were very happy to work with you too. I think for so many of our projects, people come in and And frankly, they're individual farmers and they might have a project $200,000 or less, and we can get them, depending on the year, some year 50%, some year 25%. But occasionally there's some really good large projects that come along. And we definitely felt you guys fit into that mold of a major project. It wasn't going to be a full 25%, but it was going to be something that could help you build your capital stack. And for other folks that are out there looking at it, it's not just about finding the money. Sometimes it's about finding the people that can come together and make this happen. We felt pretty fortunate. We had at the time a gentleman working with us as an energy engineer. He's a graduate energy engineer. We, through the REAP TAG program, provide technical assistance on almost anything you can think about in agriculture. But he'd actually spent 2 years of his life and then traveled the world doing indoor production of lettuce. So he might have had a little experience, but every greenhouse is different. But his was in one type of design. I think you guys have a pretty unique design. What did you have? Jamie, maybe you could tell us about some of the things you did in your process and some of the work that had to be done to make it all work.
Sure. We, as Lee said, we're up growing right now in an 18,000 square foot standard North American type greenhouse. And it's a little backwards, as we found out when Lee and I started this business. We knew absolutely nothing about what we were doing. And we got educated pretty quickly on what the shortfalls were with the system that we installed. And one of the main ones was the heating. And everybody knows heat rises. And it didn't take too long to figure out, why are our heaters up high when our plants are down low? And the energy demand on our furnaces in the wintertime, late fall, wintertime, and early spring, with dehumidification required in the greenhouse, you would get the heat where you wanted it, the temperature where you wanted it, and then the greenhouse would go into a dehumidification stage because you need to dump that humidity. The heat does take up a lot of that humidity because hot air, warm air holds more water, but it still had a requirement to dehumidify. So you go through a dehumidification stage, and there went a good bit of your heat out your exhaust fans. And then you have to start over again and heat it back up from the top to the bottom. And we started looking into systems that could help solve that. And Lee and I traveled to look at several of these automated greenhouses that are being built all across the country. And we found that there was a trend that was brought over from Europe, I believe, that you can install under bench heating that is efficient.
Boiler heat.
Boiler
basically.
heat
Yeah.
with fin tube radiation, heat radiator tubes. You basically build an under your table radiator, heat radiator. And giving the plants the best benefit of being at growing temperature when the sun first gets them in the morning was great. We don't have that in our current greenhouse, but we will in the new one. And we feel like it's going to help our production, because as soon as the daylight hits the plants, they'll be at a growing temperature. And
The root zone is warm. It's just a much more efficient and smart way to heat than trying to force gas furnace heat down onto your plants where it doesn't want to go. So,
That was one of our challenges, was how to model the difference between these two heating systems, to be able to say, well, and then the other thing is to model, to be honest, a small project is what you had versus the big scope of what you're going to go to. We had to model not just a different system, but a different scale of system too. But it was fun. How about the ventilation? Anything different in that, Lee? Jimmy?
The ventilation going along with the heat, because you still require ventilation. We like to have a lot of air movement inside our greenhouse, being in Mississippi, and at multiple times of the year, you want to keep the climate around the plants. It's really helped us to keep the air movement. So we've installed HAF fans under the tables that disturb the air around and up through the plants. And then we have upper HAF fans that move the air. So you get different air collisions all through the greenhouse. And with that, you can incorporate, for humidity control and temperature control, incorporate your main exhaust systems to pull air through the greenhouse. So you're constantly recirculating fresh air around your plants. And of course, in the wintertime, that's a little different because of the cold. We'll probably in our new facility use our furnace heat, upper furnace heat, maybe 2 weeks out of the year, and rely on the boiler heat from underneath to keep the plants warm and then the comfortable climate for the employees while we're working in the crop. We asked for a design that would bring air, allow us to build a longer greenhouse. And we incorporated 2 fan pad systems on each end, and with some baffles up in the trusses, we put in a massive cupola system that will draw the air in from the north and the south end and take it out of the roof while keeping it low over the plants, so we still have that air movement. And we went to variable speed fans. We switched to 3-phase power, whereas our current facility, we're on single phase, and it is pretty expensive to operate. Not knowing what we know now, we just went with the electrical plan that
The recommended,
the recommended electrical
One size
plan.
fits all.
One size fits all. It was looked at really as a retrofit of a greenhouse frame that we put up.
and one size does not fit all. Anybody in the greenhouse business will probably already know this, but depending on your location, your latitude, your climate, your humidity levels, all that, it definitely needs to be location specific on what your design is.
Right. We went up and looked at a greenhouse that's designed like the one we're building. We saw one, walked in it, looked at it, asked questions, and in New York is different from Mississippi, which is different from Kansas, etc. Our greenhouse designer had been in the greenhouse business and growing business in Mississippi years ago. So he understood our heat problem, and he made some changes on some of it, on how the fans operate and how we would time everything to work together. We've put in a fogging system for really hot days, and that's also usable during the wintertime on low humidity days. So we've gotten a pretty flexible environmental system put together. And with the different vendors, they understood what we were trying to do from an energy savings thing. And they supplied all the equipment necessary to operate this on 3-phase power. Some of them were unable to do that and will operate on single phase, but it's a higher voltage. Rather than the 115, 120, we've gone to 208 to 250, 220. That is tripling the size of the greenhouse. And if we can match what we're spending now, well, I think we've really done something to help the bottom line of our business and our plants, which is the bottom line.
Let's talk a little bit about the process, if we could, that you had to go through with the USDA. It's I want to, for the audience, be honest and say it's not simple. But you know, if you get a $500,000 check, you already probably knew it was not going to be a simple process. How did it work for you? What type of help did you need? And if you had any recommendations for people trying to do it again, what would you say they should be doing to make their trip through this process maybe a little less painful?
Well,
First and foremost, get y'all involved.
yeah,
Because EIM led us through it. And although we did need to provide, you know, quite a bit of backup material, you need to be prepared with all your records of all your past utility bills. And Jamie did a lot of the work on the, you know, comparison of per square foot basis and all that. I'll let him speak to that. But, you know, to have somebody asking you for what is needed to complete this process, rather than you having to just make it up step by step and not be sure that you're sending in the right stuff. It was immensely helpful to have somebody that's done these over and over.
yeah, the EIM provided us with a comprehensive equipment checklist, of which we added a couple of things to, I believe. But it is also a good exercise, or was a good exercise for us, just to do an inventory of what we're running now, and getting mad at yourself again for having installed it that way. But we've been lucky in that all of the equipment, most of the equipment that we've installed originally is very durable equipment, and we're still running it, and it's 12 years old. But it going through and looking at what are your fan motors rated for, what are your voltages, looking at your pumps, looking at your lights, looking at everything, that your wet wall pumps, your everything. It's a good inventory and a good exercise to go through, because
To analyze it all. Yeah.
and it's always good to look at your equipment and try and spot any problems that you might be headed towards. And whether you're building a new facility or you're gonna retrofit your current facility, that's where this program can come in and really help you in both cases.
It's a good program. I just want to be honest and say it is not, it's not simple. Jamie, try to remind me, how long did we work together on your project from the time we said hello to the time we actually had a bundle together to send to the USDA? Was it,
I would
how many
say
months
it was
did
at
you-
least, it was probably a 2.5, 3 months.
At least 90 days, if
Process.
not a
Yeah.
little.
we have to create like a 500-page document, and the document is pretty detailed, and in your case it was indoors, so it wasn't as detailed as some of the folks that are doing projects outdoors with more environmental impact studies, more requirements to prove that it's going to pass the phase 1 environmentals. But the two things that I would want to throw in there is it's worth the trip, although in the middle of the trip you'll say, you know, this is a lot of paperwork, but it's $500,000. But the second thing is if we have time to work together with anyone out there in the field, it will be a better answer. It'll be a better process. It will be something that you'll be more proud of when you're done, and will be easier to actually get the check from the USDA at the end if you do most of the work in the beginning up front. Like Jamie did do a lot of work that was really important to us to give us the information on what is on site right now, so we can compare the two systems and model them. We probably had, well, thank you USDA. We probably had over 100 hours of our engineering time here trying to take what Jamie gave us and turn it into a good solid analysis of what the differences between a theoretical system one way and the one that he has right now would be performing. So please, if you're considering this type of project, give us some time so that we can be not those folks that are always frantically on the phone saying, you got to give it to me before midnight, and we can work together more as a team than as like some sort of a barrier, because we want to understand what you all do. We want to support what the customers do. And the other thing I want to really emphasize is the USDA is very good about this. They want to let you do what you want to do. They want you to be able to do a greenhouse if you want. They want you to do a laundromat if that's what your business model is. They just have some very simple rules. Some of the rules would be that you have to be eligible. You have to be a rural producer, or you have to be an agricultural producer or in a rural setting. You have to be able to come up with your side of the money. They pay on completion. So that means you have to have a pretty good capital stack put together, because the USDA is going to fund somewhere between 25 and 50%, different numbers, different years. But that means that you guys, Jamie and Lee, probably had to go and find bankers that were going to fund the rest of it, right? And sometimes that's not easy to do with a project that's new or different, or that the banker's not had experience doing 10 of these in a row in the last year. Was it hard to build the capital stack, guys? Was it easier with the grant, without the grant? How'd that work?
Right. Well, the grant, actually, it was attractive, and we were fortunate that the state of Mississippi also participated in another grant for water conservation, which we were able to apply to our nutrient system that will be feeding our lettuce, but that is also run by energy, and that energy usage was considered in the REAP grant, and the state was looking at it. Okay, if you're using this equipment, you're going to be conserving water while you're using energy, but we're not involved. The state was not involved in the energy side, and EIM was not involved in the water side. But those two grants were able to be put together side by side, and
was those two things were very attractive to the lending institutions when they were considering whether they wanted to loan us money or not. You know, to have that much in grant funding was, you know, it played a big part in being able to make this work.
And we did also go to the private equity market, and it was attractive to the private investors that we got for this project. They were like, wow,
well, it lends credibility. You know, if two major, you know, the USDA and the state of Mississippi vetted you hard enough to award you these grants, then that definitely lends credibility to your project.
There's something to your project, and this looks like it'll work, and we want to support it. And we have had great contact with the USDA and the state extension services over our years of existence here at Salad Days in our current facility. And they were excited. The local contacts we have, they were excited. They are continuing to be excited about this project, which is about probably 75% complete. We hope to be growing. We hope to have plants germinated somewhere around Christmas time.
Before the end of the year, we will be in there.
And
that would be a
we're
great
looking at-
beginning to the new year. That would be, wow. The USDA, you know, sometimes we feel like these guys are the problem. They're working their tail off trying to help new projects come out of the ground. They've got rules, but on the other side of the coin, it was Lakari in your state. There are 50 people just like Lakari out there. And not only do they want to help the farmers, they want to help the farmers enough that they put their money on the line and said, we will give you technical support. So for folks like Salad Days, folks that are in most states, there's a REAP tag, technical assistance program, where they will pay for people like myself. In some states it's us, in other states it's other firms, to physically help you with that 500-page application, and particularly with the engineering side of it, because it would be so easy to lose faith in the middle of a process this big, to not know which forms are required, when, where, how. They want you to make it to across the finish line. They're funding this effort. They're funding the actual project. And as Jamie was saying, you go to the bank with half the money in your hand already in some cases, and it makes it a lot easier meeting with that banker on some new ideas. And I will just go a little bit off track here and say, a lot of folks that call us have not just ideas like indoor lettuce, but they have tilapia farms. They have different new types of ways they're trying to get to the end user, to the marketplace, to get closer to their customer. Great idea, but when you walk into your banker, it may not be his idea. So we need to look at the combination of all the tools they're going to give us, things like the REAP grant, things like the value-added producer grant, and loans like the business and industry grant from the USDA that guarantees the bank and takes a little bit their apprehension off, so that they, when they meet a new idea, well, bankers never really get excited by new ideas, but they're less hesitant with some of this USDA support. Any advice you have for other folks, guys, that are looking to start this process that you guys have at Christmas time will have successfully completed?
We hope to be
Well,
successful.
what advice?
What advice?
Yeah.
One is be patient. 2, do your planning. 3, don't go spend the money yet, because they've got to see it to believe it. And once you've done it, then you're into the reimbursement stage, which if you're funding it yourself, it's you're getting your money back. If you have investors or bankers, you can pay down debt. It just makes it a much more attractive package. Just do your planning, or get started doing your planning early before you spend any money on equipment. And
use the tools available to you with, like Bruce, what you said, with find out if you don't already know who your USDA rep in your state is, find out and get to know them and let them help you and get a hold of whether it's your group, EIM, or whoever's working in your state. Use those tools as much as you can, because it's a hard process.
Yeah. They are not the enemy. Most of these guys would be so happy to sit down and talk to you about your project. And I know that that's what our firm is. We're very anxious to help people. And the earlier we can get into it, the better. Some of the projects do go fairly fast, but I don't think there's any projects anymore that can get through the application phases in, say, less than 45 days. So give yourself time, start early, have a design concept in mind, have some quotes. That's a big thing that most people need to make projects like this happen, because that way the USDA and the technical people on my team know that we have a real cost that we're pushing against on how things work. Work with the USDA, get to know them, get to have a relationship, because they're the ones that are going to be giving the payments. You're going to be working with them no matter what. You might as well start in the beginning with your paymaster and get a good relationship with them. Yeah. Get technical people like ourselves on it, and don't be afraid. I think sometimes in farming, we always think, oh my gosh, I get to do this maybe 40 times in my life, and that's it. If I make a mistake, maybe not in the greenhouse business, but with a lot of our customers, they're dealing with generational farms, and they don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to be the one that let grandpa down. You're not going to make too many mistakes with the type of support, with the checkoff from the state, from the USDA, from technical folks like ourselves. We're here to support you and make sure that your ideas actually work. And that's why the USDA is giving us funding, is to make sure that good projects get put in front of them that will actually happen. Nobody wants to be in a project that didn't happen. And I'm so happy to hear that you got a promise, like for Christmas, guys. I get all these like cheese plates and things like that. I want a lettuce salad from you guys. Could you please just, we have like 5 or 6
Come
people
on
up
down.
here.
Come on down. We'll fix you
When
one.
you get to that first harvest, please send us some of it. We'll be glad to pay for it any way you want, because we are as excited as you are to get to the point where you're in production and getting the money back from all the effort that we put into it. We try to keep these things short. We try to keep them to 30 minutes. And I think what I would offer is if anyone's out there that is thinking about these ideas, please call us. If it's appropriate, we'll maybe ask Jamie or Lee to talk a little bit maybe with you've got an individual situation that they might be able to help, because they were very good to work with on this project. But don't be afraid. Take action. Help your farm get more profitable, because we all know that this is a hard time in farming, and there are things that can help. Programs like this, I think, are just fantastic.
Great.
So thank you all. Lee, Jamie, I really appreciate you making time today, and I hope that this helps the next guy that's coming down the road.
We do too. Thank you.
You take care now and appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
Appreciate it.